To all the attendees, thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to, as I introduced, Miss Demetria Felix from Berkeley College, and she's going to be talking to us today about the U.S. college admissions process, as you know, in general, as holistic. And then, of course, as many of you would have seen when we sent out these emails, she's also going to be talking about her institution, which is Berkeley College. Before we start, I'm going to run a quick poll just to see how many of you have heard about Berkeley College. It's always good to know the students that are going to be coming in. So I've launched a poll, and if everyone can just participate and just submit the answers, that will be really great. I think we have 9. So we have we'll just wait for another 5 more seconds, 10 more seconds, Dimitri, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we're good to end the poll. We've spent a good 45 seconds on it, and about 50%, 55% have said yes, and 44% have said no. So I think it's a great chance for those who have heard about Berkeley College to learn more, and also about those who've said no. I'm sure you're here to learn more, not only about the topic, but also learn more about Felixia's, Miss Dimitria's institution, and also what she has to say. So without further ado, I think I'm going to give you the stage and the mic, and the stage is all yours. So thank you so much, and I'll unmute myself and thank you, Dimitri.
Thanks. So hello to everybody. I'm so happy that you're able to join us today. I know there's a lot going on both in your country and mine, so I appreciate your time this morning. As Kunal mentioned, I will be speaking about just the admissions process in general for colleges in the US, as well as more specifically for Berkeley. What I want you to keep in mind when looking up colleges, and that should be your first step, is that many institutions in the US, there are many institutions in the US, and in such, they are all very different. So I will be speaking about the basic requirements for each, for all colleges in general. However, in doing your research, you will notice that different colleges have different requirements based upon the type of institution they are, as well as what state that they're in. So this is something that you should definitely keep in mind when you do start looking at colleges, that there is no one brush for everybody. So the first thing I am going to begin by sharing my screen here is this one. The first thing I would advise you to do once you've decided to take a look at different institutions in the US is for accreditation. Now in the US, we have various accrediting bodies that take a look at each, sorry, I'm going too fast. Just give me 1 second here. I'd like to pause it. So in the US, what we have is many different accrediting bodies that take a look at different institutions, and they say, okay, is this institution doing exactly what it is that they're saying that they're doing? And if not, then that is a problem. So this is Berkeley College's accreditation. And when you're looking at institutions, you will see that they all have a dedicated page, a web page for this. So the more important one for institutions on the East Coast of the US is Middle States Accreditation. And this is like one of the highest governing bodies to signify that that school is a legitimate school, and that everything that they are saying in their brochures, in their presentations, is exactly what that they are doing. So that's one of them. The other one is the various states' Department of Education. That's something very important for that you should be looking into when looking at different colleges and universities in the US. You know, Berkeley has a bunch of others that you could see on the screen right now. But what's important is that when you are looking at the schools, that the schools are accredited by legitimate accreditation bodies. That should be your first step. The second step, of course, which would probably, you would already have an idea going in, is that you have to look at what the schools offer. All different schools offer different programs. There are, basic programs that are offered throughout different institutions. But that's something that you should look into, because sometimes you'd want to study science and you'd love an institution, but they do not offer that program. So that's something that, look into before you start, researching one institution more than the other. The second thing, well, third rather, is the admissions requirements. Most universities, and I'll just give you the general list, require, of course, an application. You'd need to submit your transcripts from high school. So in your case, it would be the higher secondary certificate. Some schools require SAT scores. Increasingly, a lot of institutions do not ask for that right now. So that's something you should definitely look into. Being from India, I know English is your primary language. However, some institutions might think that you will need to either give like a TOEFL or an IELTS score. And even in those requirements, it's different for other schools. Berkeley College requires a score of 61 or better on the TOEFL. Other schools might ask you for something a little bit higher, or some schools may say something a little bit lower. So that's something that you should look into as well. So there's application, transcripts, SATs, maybe, and sometimes AP. I'm sorry, not AP, ACT scores as well. Some schools will ask for that. Again, it varies by institution, by state. So that's something you should definitely keep in mind. So we have your application, your transcripts, some test scores, English requirements. Those are the basics. Those are the basics for admission review, to see if you could be accepted into the school. Some schools might ask you for an essay, so you should work on your essay writing skills as well. And depending on, say, for example, if you're looking to go into the science field, biology or chemistry, they will look for certain scores on those particular subjects. In addition to these requirements, obviously, if you want to come into the US to study, you have to show the ability to fund your own studies. So some schools, depending on the states, again, it all varies by institution, the financial requirement will be different. And the financial requirement is based on what the schools estimate the cost is to study, to live and study in that particular city or state. So for Berkeley College, we are in New York City and New Jersey. Our cost of living is much different from, say, if you like to go study in Nebraska. So that's something that you should look into. You should always have bank statements readily available if requested. And ideally, it should not come from more than one or two sources. I know sometimes parents and family would like to pull their funds together and show individual bank statements. The school will accept it as fine, but that's something that you might want to reconsider, especially when you start dealing with the US embassies, and I'll speak about that a little later. So bank statements, very important. People might ask, okay, what about statement of income or salaries? I would recommend against that, because the general rule is readily available funds. So if a parent is supposed to make a certain amount in a year and you're asking for a visa in the middle of a year, that means that the funds are not readily available. So that's something that you should consider, readily available funds on, not more than one or two bank statements. Of course, and I know that's not really the case for India, if any of these documentation is in another language, you should always have a translated copy of it. Just backtracking a little bit back to transcripts. Some schools will ask you to send it to them yourself. You could just issue the, scan and email your transcripts to the school, and that will be fine. Other schools would like it directly from your school or from your central board. Other schools will say, okay, submit it through an agency like WES. Again, and you will be sensing a theme here. There are many variables dependent on the school that you are applying to and the state that they're in. And the process of submission is very different for schools as well. A school like Berkeley College, if I'm your admissions advisor, you can email me everything directly or upload it to our system. That way I could take a look at it, verify it, do the evaluation, and let you know. Another school will want you to send it through, again, an institution like WES or your school, and that process, as you can imagine, would take a little bit longer and a little bit more costly than, say, directly emailing it to a school. So that's something that you should definitely consider. All right, so we have your application, your transcripts, your SAT or ACT scores, essay if needed, English proficiency if needed, and more importantly, a bank statement. Oh, and also an essay if needed. Once you have all these documentation together, you can submit that to the school through their required process. All applications, or most applications, do come with an application fee. You can check in with the school. Sometimes schools run different promotions for different times where you can apply without submitting an application fee. That's something that you should consider as well. In the case of Berkeley College, we ask for an application fee up front, just to review your documents and to let you know if you're accepted. So for your $50 application fee, we can review all your documents and give you an admissions decision, tell you whether or not you're accepted or not. If you choose to proceed with your acceptance with Berkeley College, we would ask you then for the remaining fees so that we can issue the I-20 so that you can apply for the student visa. Which brings me to how to apply for the student visa. Once you've gone through the process with the school, you've become admitted, they would issue you the I-20 and all the other supporting documents needed to apply for the student visa at the US consulate. That's something that you as an individual, whether you're receiving assistance from a counseling agency or your parents, your teachers, that's something that you would need to handle. The schools generally do not do this process for you. They can advise you and give you the required documentation, but that's something that you will need to do yourself. So the first step after you've gone through and you've been accepted to your school and you have received the I-20 is to pay the Sevis fee. The Sevis fee right now stands at $350, and it must be paid prior to you being able to schedule a visa interview. In some instances, you can schedule an interview before, but it just becomes messy. So our advice is once you have your Sevis fee, pay the once you have your I-20, pay the Sevis fee so that you can go through the process in order and you don't get confused or you don't miss anything. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a question? Yes. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dimitri. I was just saying we can take the Q&As later. I can see.
Oh, okay. So it's a simple question. The person asked if Berkeley College offers scholarships and are they merit or need based? The answer to your question is both yes and yes. We offer different scholarship opportunities, and I could speak more about that later on. So basic answer is yes. Yes to both of your questions. Okay. All right. Ooh, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so we're talking about the visa process. So once you've paid your Sevis fee, then you can schedule your visa appointment. Now, scheduling the appointment, I would say, if your school begins in September, I would recommend applying or scheduling your visa appointment for, July and August. What this does is it gives you an opportunity to find out earlier if your visa has been approved, and B, if it is not approved, it'll give you time to apply again before your scheduled start dates. So that's something that, you should definitely consider, which brings us back to when do you apply? As early as possible is always the right answer, because the earlier you have a decision, the more time you have to prepare. So apply for a visa at least at minimum 30 days before you're scheduled to start. However, I would recommend, as early as possible. Sometimes you can do it up until 6 months before you're scheduled to start. So it will give you time to go through the process, understand what's happening, and if it does not go well, it will give you time to apply again. So once you've had, you scheduled your visa appointment, it's time to prepare. And I have put on the screen here just the basic requirements for the visa application. So of course, the I-20, because that's the most important document, a valid passport, and by valid, we mean at least 6 months before expiration, official documents of financial support, and again, that would be the bank statements. In this case, 1 or 2 bank statements is highly recommended. So if you have funds from multiple sources, try to pull it together as much as possible. And of course, your acceptance letter to the school. Those are the basic requirements that you should have. So when you do get to the interview date, here's what you should consider. You have to be able to properly explain why you'd like to come into the US. I always tell students, you can't say, oh, I like America because I want to, don't do that. You have to be able to explain why you'd like to study in the US, and more specifically at the college that you chose. So you have to have a fundamental knowledge about the institution, not just a cursory glance, which is why doing research is very important. You have to be ready to convince the consul officer that you will return home after you finished your studies. So if you're going to a school to study medicine, you have to be able to explain why you're going to another country to study medicine and how that knowledge will benefit your home country when you return. You should not emphasize that, okay, my uncle is here, my sister, my extended family is here. That's something that is generally frowned upon. Obviously, most people in the world do have family in the US, but that shouldn't be the main focus of why you'd like to study in the US. And practice your English. I know this is India, your English is fine, but again, as much as your English can be fine, it is very important to be able to properly explain yourself so that the other person who is a native English speaker could clearly understand what you're trying to express. And more importantly, don't talk about working in the US. Part of the visa benefit, if you get it, is that you would be authorized to work in the US for up to 1 year, or depending if you're in the STEM program, 2 or more years in the US. That is a benefit that comes in at the end of your education. So as much as, there is a possibility for you to work in the US, that should not be the focus, because your focus should be studying only. Consulate usually like to know that a person, which goes back to the bank statement, the person could afford to live comfortably in the US without needing to work in the US. So that's something that you should really think about whilst you're in the interview. So again, my last few points pretty much deal with what we discussed earlier. Why do you want to study? what are you going to take? No, I'm sorry, why do you want to study in the US? Why are you going to take that specific program that you like to study? What made you choose a particular institution? And what career will your studies prepare you for? So you can't say, okay, I am going to study accounting because I want to be a doctor. It just does not work that way. So just be very mindful of your purpose when going into the interview, and try to be as clear and succinct as possible. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. That's just like for the admissions process. So I see, yes.
Yes, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Uh-huh.
Just to kindly share, Dimitria, most of the students participating today are from IB and A level schools. So if you could just
Oh, perfect.
kindly go back a slide and just, I think I saw something on transfer credits.
Oh, yes,
Of
definitely.
fees or for IB credits. If you can dwell some information on that, I think that'll be very much helpful. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and it also goes to some of the questions I see here, and I could answer them really quickly. Can I share if we are test optional? Yes, we are. And if you have IB, do we waive TOEFL? Yes, we do. Definitely yes. What do we consider when granting merit-based and need-based? Finances is definitely one, and there is an essay component and your general transcript. So we look at, okay, your transcripts, your essay, what is your need for the scholarship, and also if you have any other extracurricular activities, so that even if your grades are not that are not where you want them to be, then you have something else to show. Okay, even if my grades are not good, then I'm doing something else that makes me a better student for your institution. Um, a loan letter from the bank. Yes, we do. We would accept a loan letter from the bank as proof of sponsorship. Okay, so let me just go back to the slide to speak briefly about, which one was it? I can't remember. I think it was,
Transfer credits?
yes, transfer credits. So yeah, once you've completed, and in terms of the IB, it will have to be the 13 year, and it will be higher standard scores. We do review those for transfer credits. So yes, it is possible, once you've completed the IB diploma, that you can get upwards of, well, not upwards, about from 0 to about 27 credits are possible for transfer. So in most cases, that would be, the first year of college. So being in an IB program, it sets you up fantastically for your studies in the US, because that's something that a lot of schools do accept. Okay? Did that answer the question, Kunal?
I think it did. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so I think I'm open for more questions at this point, and then I would speak more specifically about Berkeley College.
Yes, I think what you could do is, if you may kindly continue with your presentations, and I think as the presentation goes on, if students have some question, they can ask, or we can do a Q&A towards the end, so at one time you can answer all those.
Okay, that's fine with me. Okay, where am I? Where's my second one? Just give me a second here. It looks very similar to my first one. And I'll just speak more specifically about Berkeley. I know I touched upon our process throughout. So I just want to give some general information for those students who are not familiar with Berkeley College. We are an institution located in New York and New Jersey. We do have an online school where it is possible for you to complete the majority of your programs fully online. So that's definitely a possibility if you are unable to visit the US to study. Let me just see here. We are a private school, so let me just start again. We've been around since 1931. We are a private institution, and we specialize in career-focused programs. And I will go on to these programs that we offer later on. We're in the New York metro area, so our main campus is in New York City, but we do have campuses in New Jersey and also in White Plains, which is a suburb just outside of New York. It's part of New York State. Things you should know about us: we are a small institution. So when in speaking with students, I know some have this general idea of what a college in the US or university looks like. You know, the large buildings, the big lawns. Berkeley College is not that type of school. We're located in Midtown Manhattan, and for anybody who is familiar with the city would know that we're 1 block away from Grand Central and 2 blocks away from Times Square. So we're in the middle of the city. What this means is that our campus is not a traditional campus, and this is by design, because the careers that we help students develop when they come into schools, when they come into Berkeley College, is geared to put them in an environment in the business world. And there's no place like New York City, and more importantly in Manhattan, for business studies. Our programs that we offer, they're very focused. So what that means for you is if you would like to study, say, international business at Berkeley College, this is pretty much what you will study. There is no extra, information that would not really guide you towards your career or not be beneficial for you in the chosen field. So a lot of schools will have, even though you're studying business, you'd have to do certain literature courses or science courses or history courses. There is a component of that at Berkeley, but it's not the overwhelming percentage of the major. I mentioned earlier that we are a very small school. What this means is that you would be in a classroom with no more than 30 other people, or a total of 30 people. It's very small, and it's taught by professors who are not only qualified teachers, but they would already have experience in the fields that they're teaching. So if you're studying accountant, not only would your professor be a qualified professor, he would more than likely be someone who is working in the accounting field or who has worked in the accounting field. So he's able to bring not only the theory of, accounting, for example, but the practicality of it or how it's being used in real world time. Okay. I mentioned on-site and online. Tuition fees and scholarships are available. We spoke about scholarships earlier, and I would speak more about it later. What the tuition fees means is Berkeley College, like most other institutions in the US, do raise tuition costs every year or every 2 years. What that means for you is that if you begin school this year and you continue on with your program without breaks, what this means is that the same tuition you started with is what will be the cost of your entire program. So you would not be subject to having an increased tuition every year or every other year. And this is where Berkeley stands apart from other schools. At the end of your program, or towards the end of your program of study, Berkeley College requires all students to either have an internship or a job practicum. What that means for you is not only when you graduate from Berkeley, not only will you have an education, but you also have the much desired college work experience, which is what a lot of companies are looking for. So that internship or job practicum would come in towards the end of your degree program. So more than likely in your last or second to last semester of studying before graduation. I think those were all the questions we had. Yes. And we do have a career services. So the same people who would assist you with getting your internship, and that's something that is managed by Berkeley. You do not need to get the internship on your own. Once you have graduated and you would qualify and hopefully stay in the US to work for the 1 year or 2 years after graduation, our career services department would be the one assisting you in finding employment for that 1 or 2 years post-graduation. Where am I? Next slide. Yes, we spoke briefly on that. We're very proud of our international student population. We have, as the slide shows, more than 350. I can't remember the exact number of students from India, but we do have quite a few. So as much as you would be in the US among other students from the US, you'd also be in a classroom with people from all over the world. And at Berkeley, our top 5 countries represented, not India yet. The top 5 countries would be mostly European and Asian countries. I spoke about our faculty and the curriculum already, our accreditation. Oh, these are the programs that Berkeley offers. Like I said, we're career focused. So you can see here, most of our programs are business centered, but we do offer other programs such as graphic design and interior design. Don't know why I didn't do that earlier. Sorry about that. So yeah, so this is a list of the programs that we offer. See if any of it is of any interest to you. More specific information about these programs is available on our website. You will see what the possible careers are. Also a list of classes or courses that you would need to take to complete each program. What you would notice is that once you're looking on the website, there's a lot of crossover because all of the programs are business focused. So at least 1/3 of each one would have just general business requirements. And then you would get more specific for the major, whether it be international business, management, or marketing. We do have a MBA, a BBA to an MBA option. So that's something that you would really need to, I'm sorry about that. I lost my words there for a second. What that means is that you could enter into the undergrad program for your bachelor degree, and about two years in, depending on your grades, you will be invited to study on for the MBA. What that does for you is it narrows your studies down even further, and it gives you the opportunity to complete your bachelor degree as well as a master's degree in a very short period of time. Just a quick note, that's mostly for New Jersey campuses and online. I think there was a new question here. I'm just going to look at it. Yes, we are still accepting applications for September. Our start date is September 8th. And in light of everything else, we do anticipate being able to have students on site. Online is always an option, but we're looking for on site and online in September. So yes, we are still accepting applications. I spoke briefly about the tuition fees, tuition freeze. And I'm going on to scholarships next. Here I have a short list of companies that have hired either Berkeley interns or Berkeley graduates. This is what we can fit on the screen. The list, of course, is much longer. And this slide just shows the list of different support services that we offer. My office, of course, would be the International Student Department. The college also has a student development department, and that's for student life. We also have athletics and recreation. And for athletics, it's basketball, soccer, tennis, and cross country. Housing in New York, we offer, in New York City, we do not have dormitories because space is very limited. However, we do work with other companies, or we do have different services that we can assist students with in terms of obtaining housing in New York. In the White Plains campus, we do have dormitories, but I just want to keep in mind that coming this September, the dormitories would not be available. And there's our tuition cost per year. And to go back to somebody's question, each semester, you know, with tuition and fees, this is what your tuition will be. What this means for you is every year, most US colleges would raise tuition. Once you start at Berkeley, that tuition that you see here would be your tuition for the remainder of your studies. You will not be subject to a tuition increase every year or every other year. Okay. I hope that answers your questions about tuition fees. And this is just the cost of White Plains, but as I said, the dorms will not be available this September. Tuition fees, we just spoke about. The scholarships, I know that's something that you're definitely interested in. I wonder if it's on the next page. Yes, so Berkeley College, we offer two different scholarship programs. One, it's called the International Student Grant, and the other is the Honors Scholarship. So I'll speak about the tuition grant first. The tuition grant, it goes up to 25% off tuition. That specific scholarship, we're more liberal with it. So most students who do apply for the scholarship will get this scholarship. So whether it's 10, 15, 20, or the full 25% off tuition, most people who apply for it will get it. And that is the International Student Grant. The second scholarship, which is a little bit more limited, is the Honors Scholarship. So what that means is that students who are accepted into this honors program, they will get up to 50% off tuition. This program, it's more limited. We only have 20 seats available every year, and it's once a year, so it's only in September. The other one, you can apply for it throughout. It's only in the honors program is only in September. It must be for a higher achieving student. And more than likely, if you're coming in from an IB program, your grade point average would be at or above what we require for this program. And this one, the previous one is reviewed by myself or my colleagues. This honors program is reviewed by a committee of professors, and it's much more discerning. So your essays, which is a requirement, would have to be a lot more clear. The better scholarship, the better essay, the better the essay is, the more likely you are to get the scholarship. We also would like to see recommendation letters. So whether it's from your teachers, or if you have any part-time work, or if you're a part of any institution, that person would write a recommendation letter for you for the honors program. And as you can see on the screen, your grade point average must be at least 3.0 or higher. I think we have a couple new questions here. I'm just going to read them out. So what do I consider when granting students merit-based? It's your GPA, your grade point average, and also your ability to fund your studies. So a lot of people cannot afford the full amount. So if that is your case, then we will take a look at everything else to see how high your scholarship should be or can be. I will go over the internship opportunities in a second. Her policy on AP credits is pretty much if you have a passing grade, and you've taken an AP course similar to any course that you will need to take at Berkeley, you will be given credit for that course. Berkeley, we mostly offer career or business programs. So if you've done chemistry, biology, and you've done well in it, since we do not offer chemistry or biology, we may not be able to transfer that class for credit. However, if you do general studies or math or English in AP, more than likely you will receive credit for that course. I hope that answers your question. So let me just go back to the internship opportunities. What the process would be is during your last or second to last semester, you will meet with a career services advisor, and this person would let you, help you with creating your resume and helping you find specific internships. So for example, if you are a fashion student, your internship will more than likely be in the fashion industry. If you are an accountant student, your internship would be, with an accounting company. And what that internship is work experience. So you will go in, and whatever you have learned during your studies at Berkeley College, you would hopefully be able to apply it to your working experience during your internship. And these internships are generally 3 or 4 months long. And again, it's before graduation. So, and the different opportunities, again, it depends on your major. So let me go back here. The first one, of course, accountants, it's an accounting company. So if you're an accounting major, chances are this was the company that you would, or a company like this, you would work with. I see here we have Max Mara, which is a famous, famous designer. So chances are, if you are a fashion student or even a marketing student, you will be working with a company like Max Mara or like a L'Oreal. Okay. I think we have one more question. The person is asking about scholarships, if it's renewable at Berkeley College. Once you have received the scholarship, you have it for the duration of your studies at Berkeley. So you do not have to renew the scholarship, it stays with you. The only requirement is for grade points. So for the international award, your grade point should be at or above a 2.5. For the honor scholarship, it must always be above a 3.0. Once you can maintain your grades, you will maintain the scholarship for the duration of your studies. I hope that helps. Okay, let's see here. I think we've pretty much covered most of the information that I have for you. Berkeley College's admissions requirements. I know you saw this slide earlier from my previous presentation. This is what we need. Just to mention about the TOEFL or the IELTS score, seeing as most of you are in the AP program, this would not be required for you anyway. Okay. I think we have one more question. The housing at our White Plains campus, it's just not available for September. I think they're going to do some renovations. So that's not available at all. Off campus would be your only option. So yes, you can stay off campus. Yes, so for us, in addition to like the application fee or prior to the application fee, if you would like to see if you can be admitted to Berkeley, you can send us an email with whatever major you'd like to study and your transcripts, and we can tell you even before you apply if you can be accepted to Berkeley. So if you are interested, you can email me or my colleagues, and we can tell you based upon this, you would be accepted. Please proceed with the application. And campus life and activities. We'll talk about that in a few. There we go. Different activities that take place on campus. And keep in mind, this is specific for the International Student Office. The Student Development Department for the entire Berkeley College would have a lot more activities and programs available, okay? For us, we like to do something with international students at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. It's different things that are not listed here. We like to go out and experience different cuisines from different schools. We go out to museums, take walk-in tours around New York City. There are different groups that meet up. We have a Center for Academic Success. They host workshops all the time for networking. There are career services events where they help you with improving your interview skills or resume writing workshops. We also help students with LinkedIn. So there's a whole host of different things that occur that obviously are not listed here. I think we have a couple more questions. Yes, we do assist students with finding off-campus housing. I have a whole list. It's probably at least over 20 at this point of different options available to students. Okay. Let's see here. I hope that answers your question. In terms of our campus, I mentioned earlier that we're in Midtown Manhattan, so a lot of activities that we would like to do or we do make happen are limited because of our location and space available. Soccer is one of the activities that we offer, and as you can imagine, our team consists of students, mostly international students or students from another country. So that's something to consider if you like playing soccer. But I know cricket is more, a more popular sport in India.
Yeah,
we don't have a cricket team.
Right. Yeah, very popular, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a cricket team yet. And that is all. So I think that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Just give me one moment. If am I audible? Can you see me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dimitri. I really appreciate your kind time. I think there were a lot of good questions that were asked, I think, today.
Yes.
Dimitri, I think one of the questions that keeps coming, that is being asked of, of US colleges, I think by students. I don't know if anyone's asked it is yet in a chat session. But one of the things is if the college, I think you said, is preparing for in-person classes, what are some of the safety measures that colleges are taking? I think these are some common questions I know when during my conversation they were being asked.
Yeah, especially now.
Yes.
So what we're working on, and there will be a plan put in place by the end of this month. It's different policies. So the more popular one right now is for hybrid courses, which means that even though you will be an international student studying in the US, you will not be required to be in the classroom as often. So some of your studies would definitely have an online component, and then at certain times you would have to be in classrooms. Our class size is really small to begin with, so we don't have the risk of having many people in a large group. However, we're still going to minimize that in terms of the number of students in a classroom, as well as how often you would have to be in the school. So that's just one of the safety measures. And I think for pretty much for the world, that's one of the the biggest requirements, not having as many people in a small space as possible, as well as keeping everybody at minimum of 6 feet apart, and limiting the amount of time that you'd have to go in through public transit or to be in the school. We're also, even before all of this, Berkeley College always have hand washing stations or sanitizing stations throughout the school. So that's something that is already in place for us, so we don't have to add anything to that. Obviously, there would be people checking for temperature prior to the student entering the building. So those are just some of the measures that we are taking before, you know, in order to function in this new reality. I hope that answers your question.
I think it does. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
good.
It was very in-depth and very, very helpful, the parameters that you went through. But I think that's a great question. I think let's just wait for a few moments.
Mhm.
If we have any new questions coming in from students and any other information, Dimitra, that you'd like to share just about fall or spring. Are you accepting spring applications?
No, actually for us, our spring application began in April. So classes are going on right now. Right now they are all online, but in September we anticipate, again, we're at the mercy of the, you know, different governments. We do anticipate being able to bring students on campus in September. That's our goal. That's what we're preparing for. In the event, you know, that is not the case, obviously, online is always an option. But I know most students, if they think about US studies, they think about studying in the US. So for now, our focus is guiding and preparing students for on-site studies. But again, it depends on what the government's saying. And more importantly, how soon before the consulates open for visa applications.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think there's one more question that may have come.
My email address, yes. I could definitely share that, or I could put it in the chat, can I?
Yeah, if you could kindly put that in the chat box, that'll be really helpful.
Huh. Answer live. Type answer. Oh, there we go. Everybody has access to this, right?
Right, absolutely.
I'll also put in my telephone number because I do speak.
Oh.
I can call students. And also on the Berkeley College website, we have an option for a live chat.
Oh, okay.
That live chat during New York hours are managed by myself,
right,
or my colleague Jan, who works in my office. So once you identify yourself as an international student, the question will go directly and it'll be live. I will be the one answering you right away.
Right.
It will be directed either to me or my colleague Jan, because we're on I think this time she will be on in the morning and I will be on in the afternoon.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, so let me put in my number here as well. I don't remember it because it's brand new.
It happens to all of us. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Where is it? 646-863-9097. So this is my information. And just so you know, I am available for Skype calls, for Zoom calls, for telephone calls, for always on email, and of course on live chat.
Right.
And if for some reason you do not get me through any of these, you will get my coworker Jan, or our supervisor, who is our VP, Nori Jaffer.
Right. I think you've provided many great resources to get in touch with you. Yes. And also you've had a great session. I just had two questions, as a follow-up. I think we have a quick 60 seconds before we wrap up. My first question is, I think you mentioned the hours that you're available on the chat. Can you kindly, if you could share that in EST on the chat box? I think that'll be helpful.
Sure. It varies. So some days I'm in the morning, some days I'm in the afternoon, but most times it's between 1 and 5 p.m.
Okay.
p.m. And that is chat hours. And what was your second question?
And this is the final one for the day. If you had one tip for Indian students, 11th and 12th graders, or for parents or guidance counselor, one admission tip that you would like to share, because this session is, as you know, is recorded. is going to be
Mhm.
shared with high schools all across India, along with your
Oh my
contact details.
gosh.
And we'll be going out to many cities across India. So if you had one tip or one advice, what would that be?
Research and apply early. I know that's two, but that's they go hand in hand. You should do your research
Right.
and you should apply early.
Okay. We'll definitely keep that in mind, and I'm sure all the students who are attending will keep that in mind, and those listening after the session will keep that in mind. But I wanted to take this opportunity because I think our time is up for the day. You have provided a very useful and informative session to all the students, parents, and guidance counselors. So thank you so much, Miss Demetria, for
Thank
joining
you
in
for
today.
having me. And if
And
I knew it would be shared, I'll try to say less.
yes, absolutely. And what we will do is this recorded video will go on all our social media pages. And of course, we'll be happy to share a link with you as well. So you can share it with yourself or your team and keep it for future reference purposes. But I really want to take this time to thank you for the kind time for joining us today.
Thank you
And
for having me. I really appreciate it.
yes, and I hope you are safe, you and your family, you take care, and we look forward to keeping in touch. I'm sure the students were very interested. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I wish you all the same as well.
Thank you, Dimitria.
Alrighty,
Wonderful.
bye.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.